Now, let me start with the summary of the black aeroplane. Let me give you the explanation. Now, the story starts when the writer, who is a jet fighter pilot, he was on his way to England. The moon was coming in the clear sky. That means it was about to get dark. It was almost night. The narrator was flying his old Dakota airplane over France back to England. So he was flying his aeroplane above France and he was going back to England. He contacted Paris Control for instructions. We all must be aware of it that whenever the pilots are flying aeroplanes, they are connected to the control office which is located downstairs at the airport, where they can get in touch. They get directions about which direction they have to move in, what are the weather conditions, how, and they get all kind of assistance and help from the control room. So the narrator was flying his old Dakota aeroplane over France back to England. He contacted Paris Control for instructions. He was asked to turn 12 degrees west. He was getting instructions where to turn, how many degrees to turn, and he thought that he would be in time for English breakfast. So he expected that he will reach England before the breakfast time. Paris was 150 kilometers behind him. He saw the clouds in the sky. There were clouds in the sky. There were storm clouds. They were dark, black, stormy clouds. They looked like black mountains standing in front of him. He couldn't avoid by flying up and over them. He didn't have enough fuel to fly around them north and south. He thought of going back to Paris, but he wanted to go home for the breakfast. Now the pilot was in a difficult situation where the weather was not good. It was a stormy night. He was surrounded by dark clouds, and moreover, he didn't even have sufficient fuel to go above or below the clouds and to find another way. But what he wanted was he thought once to go back to Paris, but then he wanted to go back to his home in England before the breakfast time. Now the narrator took the risk. He flew that old Dakota straight into the storm. Inside the clouds, everything was suddenly black. When he entered into the dark clouds, it was completely black. He couldn't see anything outside. He was flying the plane, but he was not able to see anything because of the dark clouds. The old aeroplane jumped and twisted in the air. Now we have seen on Republic Day how planes show their good skills, their aerobic skills, I would say, when they twist and they turn and they take those curves in the air. So this plane was taking twist and was jumping in the air because of the bad weather. Moreover, the pilot could not see anything because of the dark clouds. So he looked at the compass, which shows directions, but the compass was also not working. It was completely dead. The other instruments were also dead. He tried the radio to contact Paris control room, but there was no answer. Perhaps because of the bad weather, the connections were also lost. He was not connected to the Paris control room. He didn't know where he was. He was in a very hopeless situation. At times there have been incidences where the pilots have lost their way, they have lost their connection with the control room, because of which the plane disappears in the cloud, or maybe it crashes somewhere in the mountain and then no whereabouts of such planes are found. If you find on YouTube, you will find such incidents in history in the entire world. Now the pilot was really in a terrible situation. He didn't know what to do and how to go about. He was lost in the storm, but then suddenly he saw a ray of hope. That hope was that he saw another aeroplane. This was a black aeroplane which was flying next to him. He could see the pilot's face. He was glad to see another person. He was see that okay, some other human being was there in the sky along with him. A black aeroplane was flying next to him and he could see a person flying that aeroplane. The person asked him to follow him and he said, waving his one hand. The narrator followed him like an obedient child. Now the narrator had no clue where to go. He was really in a big trouble. So he found somebody who was asking him to follow him. So he took a breath of relax and he started following that black aeroplane. Landed safely, he followed the black aeroplane for half an hour. Now there was only enough fuel in the old Dakota's last tank to fly for 5 or 10 minutes.